Namaste. My name is JVN Manisha Singh, Assistant Professor in Department of Food and Biotechnology under Faculty of Agriculture and Veterinary Sciences in Jyoti Vidyapith Women's University, Jaipur. I am teaching you subject Unit Operation in Food Industries for class BSc FST second semester and BTech FPT second semester. In previous session, we were discussed all about the water activity and the equilibrium moisture content of foods. And in today's session, we will discuss about the evaporators, in which we will discuss what is evaporator, types of evaporator, and their mechanism, etc. We will discuss in today's session. So now let's start the topic, evaporation. Theoretically, evaporation means simply vaporization from the surface of a liquid, and vaporization of a liquid below its boiling point is called evaporation. Thus, no boiling occurs and the rate of vaporization depends on the diffusion of vapor through the boundary layers above the liquid. Okay, thus a practical definition of evaporation is the removal of liquid from a solution by boiling the solution in a suitable vessel and withdrawing the vapor, leaving a concentrated liquid residue. This means that the heat will be necessary to provide the latent heat of vaporization, and in general, the rate of evaporation is controlled by the rate of heat transfer. Okay, so evaporators are designed, therefore, to give maximum heat transfer to the liquid with the largest possible area, a suitable temperature gradient. Okay, so mechanism of evaporation. When heat applied in the solution, the motion of molecules increases and molecules present in the surface overcome the surface tension of the liquid and it evaporates because surface molecules have less cohesive force than the others. Now, what are the factors which affects the evaporation? There are 7 factors to affect the evaporation. Number 1 is temperature, surface area, agitation, atmospheric aqueous vapor pressure, atmospheric vapor pressure on the liquid under evaporation, types of product required, and economic factor. So the temperature, the rate of evaporation is directly proportional to the temperature. That means as the temperature rises, the rate of evaporation also increases. Okay. Surface area. The rate of evaporation is directly proportional to the surface area of the vessel exposed to the evaporation. That means as the surface area of the vessel increases, the rate of evaporation is also increases. Agitation, it is necessary for the process of evaporation. Atmospheric aqueous vapor pressure, the rate of evaporation is inversely proportional to the atmospheric aqueous vapor pressure. Next is atmospheric pressure on the liquid under evaporation. The rate of evaporation is inversely proportional to the atmospheric pressure on the liquid under evaporation. Okay. That means atmospheric pressure on the liquid under evaporation is low, then the rate of evaporation is high. Next is type of product required. The selection of the method and the apparatus to be used for evaporation, that will depends upon the type of product we required. And last is the economic factor. When selecting the method and apparatus, the economic factors are important. Okay. So evaporation under reduced pressure. At reduced evaporation increases, at a reduced pressure, evaporation basically increases. So advantages are evaporation occurs at low temperature with less risk of damage to the heat sensitive materials because it is occur at low temperature. Okay. At lowering the operating temperature gives higher temperature gradient without the need of excessive steam pressures. Okay. So the lower the operating temperature, the lower the steam pressure that can be used. Okay, so the equipments which are used for evaporation are called evaporators. So types of evaporator we are studying, and evaporators are mainly divided into three groups. Number one is natural circulation evaporator, in which we will study the evaporating pan, evaporating stills, and short tube evaporators. And second is forced circulation evaporator. And third type of evaporator is film evaporators, in which we study the whipped film evaporator, long tube evaporator. Under long tube evaporator, there is a climbing film evaporator and falling film evaporator. In natural circulation evaporators, working principle is the movement of liquid results from the convection current set up by the heating process. The convection current is the process in which heat moves through a gas or a liquid as the hotter parts rises and the cooler part sinks down. Okay. Next, evaporating pans. On a manufacturing scale, liquid extracts containing water are evaporated in open pans called evaporating pans. For the construction of the evaporating pans, it consists of hemispherical hollow made up of copper, stainless steel, aluminium, and enameled iron, and a steam jacket. The hemispherical shape gives the best surface and the volume ratio for heating and the largest area for the disengagement of the vapor. The working of this is the dilute solution is taken up in the pan. Steam is introduced through the steam inlet into the jacket to heat the pan. In these evaporators, the movement of the liquid results from the convection currents set up by the heating process. The concentrated liquid is collected through the outlet placed at the bottom of the pan. Okay. Now, what are the advantages? They are simple, easy, and cheap to construct, and they are easy to use and clean. Stirring of the evaporating liquids can be done easily. Next is disadvantage of the evaporating pans. The whole of the liquid is heated all the time, which may lead to decomposition of the components. Okay. Second is on the evaporating surface, foam is rapidly formed, which decreases evaporation, and solids may be deposited at the bottom, which make the stirring necessary. Okay. And this pan can only be used for evaporating aqueous and thermostable liquid extract, because the heating is for long time. Okay. And they cannot be used for evaporating extracts containing organic solvents like alcohol, etc., because they are flammable. Next type of evaporator is evaporating still. For construction, it consists of a jacketed evaporating pan with a cylindrical cover that connects it to a condenser. The overall assembly is called still, and the cover is clamped with the evaporating fan. The working principle is that dilute liquid is fed into the still, the cover is clamped, steam is introduced into the jacket, and the liquid is evaporated and condensed in the condenser and then collected. The product, that is concentrated liquid, is collected through the product outlet. Advantages are it is easy to clean and maintain and allow the equipment to be used for solvents other than the water, for example, ethanol. And disadvantages are all the liquor is heated all the time and the heating surface is limited. Okay. Next is the short tube evaporator. Next type of evaporator is short tube evaporator, and the construction is like the evaporator is of cylindrical vessel. Okay, it is a cylindrical in shape. The lower portion of the vessel consists of a nest of tubes with the liquor inside the steam outside, and this assembly is known as calendra. The specification of calendria are as follows. The tube length is 1 to 2 meter, tube diameter is 40 to 80 mm, and diameter of evaporator is 2.5 meter, and number of tubes in the evaporator is 1000. Okay, so the feed inlet is at the top of the calendra and the product outlet is placed at the bottom of the evaporator. Steam inlet and the outlet is placed from the side of the calendria. The working principle is the liquor in the tubes is heated by the steam and begins to boil when the mixture of liquid and vapor will shoot up and the tubes in a similar manner to that of a liquid that is allowed to boil too vigorously in a test tube, and the product is collected through the product outlet. Okay. Advantages are that is the use of tubular calandria increases the heating area possibly by a factor of 10 to 15 compared to that of an external jacket, and it is also increasing the rate of heat transfer, and the condenser and receiver can be attached to run the evaporation under vacuum and non-aqueous solvents. Okay. Then the disadvantages, since the evaporator is filled to a point above the level of the calandria, a considerable amount of liquid is heated for a long time. The effect of this continual heating can be reduced to some extent by removing concentrated liquor slowly from the outlet at the bottom of the vessel. Complicated design, and it is difficult for cleaning and maintenance. Next class of evaporators is the forced circulation evaporator. And the evaporator consists of a short tube calandria and a large cylindrical vessel for separation of the vapor and liquid takes place. The liquor inlet is provided at the side of the cylindrical vessel, and a pump is fitted in between the calandria and the body of the evaporator. Okay. A tangential inlet for liquid under high pressure is placed at the neck of the body of the evaporator. The vapor outlet is placed at the body, at the top of the body, and it may be passed through a condenser to collect the condensed liquid. The working principle is feed is introduced through the liquor inlet, pump will force the liquid through the calandria, steam heats the liquid inside the calandria, and as it is under pressure in the tubes, and the boiling point is elevated and no boiling takes place. As the liquor leaves the tubes and enters the body of the evaporator through the tangential inlet, there is a drop in pressure and vapor flashes off from the superheated liquor. The concentrated liquid is pumped out through the product outlet and the vapor is collected through the vapor outlet. Next is the advantages. These have a great advantage over natural circulation evaporators in that the rapid liquid movement improves heat transfer, and especially with viscous liquids or materials that deposit solids or foam readily. The equipment is suitable for operation under reduced pressure due to capacity of the process to overcome the effect of greater viscosity of the liquids. And these evaporator process possess rapid evaporation rate. Okay. Then these evaporators are mainly used for the thermolabile materials, that is heat sensitive materials. And these can also be used in practice for the concentration of insulin and liver extracts. Then disadvantages are the corrosion erosion can occur due to high circulation velocities. Salt deposits detach and accumulate at the bottom. And next type of evaporators are the film evaporators, and film evaporators spread the film, the material as a film over the heated surface and the vapor escapes the film. And following are the types of film evaporators, that is the whipped film evaporator and the long tube evaporator, under which climbing film evaporator and the falling film evaporator. Then whipped film evaporator is a form of film evaporator coming into the increasing use is the whipped film evaporator or the rotary film evaporator, which contains a single short tube of wide diameter, better described as a narrow cylindrical vessel, 1 or 2 meters in length. A section across the evaporator is shown here, where it will be seen that the vessel is surrounded by a heated jacket, and through the vessel is a bladed rotor with a clearance of the order of 1 mm between the tips of the rotor blades and the wall of the vessel. The working principle is the liquor is introduced at the top of the vessel and spread as a film over the heated wall by the action of the rotor. Okay. So the evaporation occurs as the liquor passes down the wall and vapor is taken to the condenser and the concentrated liquor withdrawn at the bottom of the vessel. Okay. The evaporator is therefore a form of a single tube falling film evaporator in which the film is forced and agitated mechanically. Next type of evaporator or falling film evaporator is film evaporator is the long tube evaporator, or you can say climbing film evaporator. The heating unit consists of a steam jacketed tubes having a length to diameter ratio of about 140 to 1, so that a large evaporator may have tubes 50 mm in diameter and about 7 meters in the length. The liquor to be evaporator is introduced into the bottom of the tube. A film of liquid forms on the walls and rises up the tubes, hence it is called climbing film evaporator. At the upper end, the mixture of vapor and concentrated liquor enters a separator and vapor passes to a condenser and the concentrated liquid to a receiver. Cold or preheated liquor is introduced into the tube and heat is transferred to the liquor from the walls and the boiling begins. Okay, so ultimately sufficient vapor has been formed for the smaller bubbles to unite to a large bubbles, filling the width of the tube and trapping a sludge of a liquid above the bubble. As more vapor is formed, the sludge of liquid is blown up the tube and the tube is filled with vapor while the liquid continues to vaporize rapidly. The vapor escaping up the tube, and because of friction between the vapor and the liquid, the film also dragged up the tube up to a distance of 5 to 6 meters. Then long tube evaporators, that is the falling film evaporators. The heating unit consists of a steam jacketed tubes having a length to diameter ratio of about 140 to 1, so that the large evaporator may have tubes 50 mm in diameter and 7 meter in length. The working principle is the liquor to be evaporated is introduced at the top of the evaporator tubes and the liquor comes down due to the gravity. The concentrate and the vapor leaves the bottom and they are separated in a chamber where the concentrate is taken out through product outlet and vapor from vapor outlet. Then the advantages are, because of obtaining good heat transfer, the method being especially useful with liquids that are too viscous to be processed in units in which the film is formed naturally. And the disadvantages are of falling film evaporator is the potentially instability of the falling film, expense to manufacture and install the instrument is very high and it is difficult to clean and maintain. Now the application of evaporation. Evaporation is one of the most important process in the manufacture of pharmaceuticals and it is used in the preparation of liquid extracts, soft extracts and dry extracts, in the concentration of blood plasma and serum, and it is also used in the manufacturing of drugs containing antibiotics, enzymes, hormones, and many other substances. Used in clarification of vitamins, concentration of proteins, concentration of biological products, stripping of solvents from vegetable and plant of herbal extracts, removal of water and solvent from the fermentation broths, concentration of penicillin and related products. Okay. So, from this session, question may be asked in your exam, like explain what is evaporation, explain its principle and the types of evaporators, and also write about the applications of evaporators in food industries. So, likewise, question will be asked in your final exams. So, prepare accordingly. I hope this session is clear to all. Thank you so much for watching this session.